G'day guys, it's Scott Maz from Lure Fishing Oz. So I was running through a number of options for the first videos that we were going to put up, and particularly for the first longer videos. And one of the things that's been coming up time and time again is how to start off with the fundamentals. And there's a lot of people that will be tuning into this channel that have not necessarily fished before, or they've done a little bit of fishing and they just want to improve their catch rates, or they're going to take the kids out fishing and those sorts of things. So I thought I'd better start with the very, very basics and the very simple rules that we tend to want to apply when we're going fishing that are going to make a big difference. So I'm going to run you through how to tie the first, basic rigs, probably the most effective and efficient rig that you could possibly use in fishing. One of the most adaptable, you can adjust it so that it works in different environments. So we're going to run you through those types of things, and then we'll have a quick chat about how you turn this into the sort of rig that'll catch more flathead and fish like that, particularly with the little 2-hook rig that we can make the adjustment to. So first thing you've got to be mindful of is the fact that everything's about compromise and there are no rules. All right. You can throw the wrong hook with the wrong bait in the wrong place at the wrong time and still catch fish. But you're only going to get away with it so often. If you want to improve your catch rates, there's some things you need to think about in your approach that'll make a massive difference. The first one is going to be, what sort of fish are you targeting and whereabouts are they in the water column? And you think about it for a moment, the mullet are going to be up near the top, they're going to be fishing off the surface. Your whiting are going to be fishing on the bottom, but they're going to be swimming around in shallow water on the bottom, or relatively shallow water in where we are. Then you've got your brim that are going to be moving up and down through the water column, but generally down in that bottom third. And you've got the flathead, of course, that are going to be sitting right down on the very bottom most of the time. Although, to be honest, I have seen a school of flathead literally taking fish off the surface in some relatively deep water. It was very funny. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the very, very basic of fishing rigs, and then we're going to work up from there. So obviously the very, very first and basic fishing rig you can put together is going to be a simple hook on a piece of line. Now I've got 2 cameras set up here. I've got that one up there and I've got this one down here. Hopefully I'll be able to capture it nice and clearly on this one and put a picture in picture for you. So basically what I'm going to do is take a typical type of hook. Now you'll notice the hook I'm using is very large. This is not the size I fish with. I'll show you the difference as we go. I'm using a very large hook so that you can see how this process works. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the line and I'm going to simply stick it straight through. Now, you've got to be very careful when you're looking at fishing knots, right? One of the things that everybody looks for is the world's strongest knot. Well, don't, okay? The strongest knots in the world are actually a little bit more difficult to tie. They're very, very time consuming and they're fiddly, righto? If you want a knot, you want a knot that's going to be consistent. Consistent is more important, I find, than probably pretty much anything else. You want consistency. You want it to break at the same rate. We can allow for that. We know what pressure to put on the fish or what to set the drag at. So I'm just going to use one of the simplest knots you can use, and it's what we call a blood knot. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the hook around 6 times. So I'm simply going to spin that hook 6 times with the line going through the eye, and then I'm going to take the tag end and I'm going to put it through the loop that's been created next to the eye of the hook, and I'm simply going to wet it and I'm going to pull it down. Now the reason why we want to wet it is we want to reduce the amount of friction. I want to pull it tight. You'll notice I get a good hold on the hook, pull it right down so that it's nice and tight, and that is my hook tied. It's that quick. So straight through the hole. Oop, there's my cutters. Straight through the hole, spin it around 6 times and put it through the loop. Righto, that's the simplest rig. There's only one problem with this. There's not enough weight to cast it in most instances. If I try and throw that onto one of our little spools, or I put it onto a fishing rod, try and toss it out, too hard, okay? What we want to do is we want to try and get a little bit of weight into the equation. Now, this is another area where we run into a bit of problem. It's one of the most common errors I see out on the water. People taking too much weight and particularly putting it too close to the hook. So I want you to think about this for a moment. Let's assume I've got a sinker and the sinker's down near my hook and it's a running sinker rig or a running ball rig. It doesn't have to be a drop sinker, it could be a running ball rig, and that is sitting down in the water. Well, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to take my bait straight to the bottom. If I'm in a boat or I'm fishing from a jetty, I can then wind the line up just enough to get it up off the bottom into that zone where the fish is going to be. Okay, so sometimes if I'm fishing in a boat, I'll drop it all the way to the bottom and then I'll just put a wind in just to get it up off the bottom. Now, all well and good if I'm fishing from a bank or a jetty. If I'm not, and I can't fish vertically, I've got a problem. Right? With that sitting down right there and the fish swimming around up here, they have to be able to detect the bait. Now, yeah, sure, they're going to sense, if it's a good bait and it's a fresh bait, sure, they're going to sense that the bait is there and they can come down and have a look. But then they're going to pick it up, and when they pick it up, they're going to feel the weight of the hook. Weight of the sinker. What we want to do is make it so that we minimise the risk of the fish feeling the weight of the sinker, dropping the bait and swimming away. Alright? So one of the first things I need to do is give the fish a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of leeway. So I'm going to put some space between the sinker and the hook. Now, in most instances, the almost perfect length is going to be the distance between your elbow and your fingers. Now, it doesn't matter whether you take a 5-year-old child or a 50-year-old man, you're going to find if you put their hand down like that, their elbow down like that, the distance between here and here is probably going to be in that, 14 to 18 inches range. So round about that, 35 to 45 centimetre sort of range. That's what we want. Now, that is for a particular reason. The first one is, if your bait's floating a little bit and wafting down in the water, it gets to that point, your sinker can sit on the bottom, and your bait's going to be sitting just above there. The next is, if the fish picks it up, it can move a little way before it feels the weight in a direction. If we go really long and we have a really long leader, the fish could be picking it up, chewing on it and doing whatever else, and then it can spit it out and you won't even know that it was there because you're not necessarily going to feel it. If we go too short, we're back into that realm where we've got a problem because the fish is going to feel that weight a lot earlier in the piece. So around about that sort of 18 inches, 45 centimetres mark is pretty much the spot on place for us to start. So obviously I want my sinker to sit above that. Now, if you're not great and you're not confident with knots, one of the ways to do that is to use a little thing called a split shot. So you slide your sinker onto the line and you take one of these little split shots, which is effectively just a little sinker that's got a split in it, slide it onto your line like that, slide him onto your line like that and close it up with a pair of pliers. That's one way to handle it. Personally, I prefer to put a swivel on. So the swivel is going to be tied exactly the same way as we tied that hook. So there's two ways to do this. One way is to go 1 turn, 2 turns, 3 turns, 4 turns, 5 turns, 6 turns, and then hold on to the loop and put the line back through the hole like that. The other way, which is a little bit easier than I find a bit easier for when I teach people, is just stick it through there like that so that you've made your loop in your line, hold those two together, stick your finger through the hole and just go 1, 2, 3, whoop. Had to catch that finger on that one just to make it look worse. 4, 5, 6, and then stick your finger and your thumb through, grab the tag line part and pull it back through the hole. Either way, you end up with 6 turns. Pull it down a bit, wet it and pull it nice and tight. Straightforward. We're then going to take our line, put our sinker on, and then through the loop, through the hole, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take it through there, stick it in the hole there and pull it tight. Now, here's a little tip. What you can do if you find that you've had these knots slip, you can actually turn it into a locked half blood knot. So hopefully I can get it on this camera for you. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to take that tag end that I've put through that loop there, through the loop there, and take that tag end, I'm going to put that back through the loop that's been formed in the line. Okay, just like that, and I'm going to pull that down. And that will lock it off into place as well. Okay, so that's what we call a locked half blood knot. So 6 times through the little loop down near the hole in the swivel, and then back through the little loop that's been created. Right, that makes the fundamentals of one of the best fishing rigs you will ever use. Now, you'll notice I've put a bean sinker on there. Okay, now bean sinkers are very special sinkers. They're fantastic. They're made for if there's a little bit of current. Alright, what I want to do is to ensure that that's going to slide up and down and not roll around in the water when there's a bit of current. If there is some current, I can actually put a much longer leader on there. So I can have my sinker up here and control over it with the rod at that end, my sinker there, and then I can have the line further out down here. So that works really well when the current's going to hold your bait up and away, or away from your sinker. It does give you that bit of extra latitude, and most of the time the fish is going to come up from the down current side because it's going to sense it, it's going to pick up the bait, and then it's going to pull on your rod and you're going to be able to set the hook. So you're still going to feel things. If you have a different type of hook, if you are fishing for flathead that are down near the bottom, you can shorten that leader up a little bit, okay? And you can bring it down to the point where it's about the length from the inside of your elbow to your wrist. So somewhere in that 8 to 10 inch range. Now, that works particularly well for flathead, or using little circle hooks. And the little circle hooks work because the sinker is actually going to help you set your rig, help you set your hook. We'll talk about that when we get down on the water and I show you a demonstration of this rig actually working in action. So, running ball, little bit of a trace, down to hook. I said before, this is one of the most versatile rigs, and the reason is this: what I can do, if I'm using the right size sinker, and the right size sinker for this style is actually really small, a lot smaller than most people expect. The right size sinker, most of the time for this rig, is going to be something down around this size, which is a size 0, about the size of a garden pea. Or a size 1, somewhere around there, a nice little ball sinker. Just enough so that I can cast and no more. We don't want any more than what we need to get the bait into its location. We take one of those and then we slide that on the line. And as I said, the hook and the line that I've got on this rig is bigger than I would normally use. I'm going to show you exactly what I normally use in a moment. Alright, so sliding through there like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Through the hole there. And pull on my line. Nice and tight. So the beauty of this is, if you take one of these, we call them floats, I think the American guys call them bobbers, those sorts of things, a little clip one. And you simply clip that onto the line twice, once at the bottom and once at the top. You will find, and I think I need my glasses on for this, once at the bottom and once at the top, you've now got a rig that will be very versatile for catching. Wouldn't you know it, the line is too thick and does not want to go down onto that little bit of metal. Just wants to be difficult today. There we go. Just on there like that. Okay. What? And wouldn't you know it, I clipped it on the wrong side. Had to happen. Righto. So it's going to sit on there like that. We've now got a rig that we can use with the right size hook for mullet, garfish, stretch it out to the right position, and we can use it for blackfish. We can use it off the rocks. Much more versatile, even easier for kids to use actually. Harder for them to cast, but even easier for them to use because they can see when the fish bites. When that float goes underwater and swims off, the fish swims off with it and stays underwater, they know to lift the rod and start winding. So that's arguably the most versatile method for setting up a rig. Alright, let's have a look now for a second. We'll do two things. The first one we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the 2-hook rig. I'm going to take exactly that same rig that I've got there with that ball sinker and the swivel, and I'm going to turn it into a 2-hook rig for using for live bait for flathead, jewfish, tailor, salmon, anything else that's basically going to need 2 hooks. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to run the hook and run the line through the hook, and I'm going to make a little loop, and the loop is going to be along the shaft of the hook. So along the shaft of the hook, and have the line hanging down at the same time. So once again, hopefully I can pick this up on the little camera, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and what I'm doing there is I'm wrapping the line around the hook and the tag at the same time. I then hold onto it and pull my line down the hook, and I've effectively made a snell. I have snelled that hook onto the line, just like that. And what I'm going to do now, put a couple of turns in there so the line sits nice and straight through the hook. Then I'm going to take my second hook and I'm going to slide it down through there like that, through the end, as just do what I did before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Slide it through the little hole in the bottom, lubricate it and pull it tight. And I'm going to end up with 2 hooks that sit on the line just like that. Okay? So if you get stuck, look for a snell knot, very straightforward, a little twist in there, and then a hook that sits out the bottom. Now that's going to give me the ability now to rig up a live bait. So when we're down on the water next time, we'll throw some prawns on the hooks and we'll go out and catch some fish. Just going to demonstrate how to throw the live bait on there for those people who are into the flathead or jewies or whatever else. First thing we're going to do is we're going to have a look at where we're going to go for the current for the water. So if I'm sitting in the boat and I'm casting out and I'm casting downstream so that I'm going to be fishing with the bait in the water like that, away from me, and the sinker at this side, I want to make sure that I don't drown my live bait. So I'm going to take my top hook and I'm going to go in through the mouth and out through the top of the head. Okay? So it's going to sit on there just like that. If I'm going to fish underneath the boat, I'm going to go in through the shoulder of the bait and have it sitting out just like that. If I'm going to go and cast out so that it's going to be sitting in the current and I want it swimming away from me, I can either go in through the bottom and out like that, or in through the top behind and out like that. There's a couple of key things that are really important when hooking up your live bait. Never hit the backbone. Always try to avoid the backbone, and always try to avoid the brain. So come out in front of the eyes wherever possible. Okay? So that'll work with yellowtail, it'll work with potty mullet, any of those sorts of species of fish, and it'll get you off and running. And it's just, as I say, effectively exactly the same rig as you were using before. It is merely a case of downsizing. So this is the size of the gear I would use for my flathead, up around 1 metre if you were going to be live baiting for a big flathead. For jewfish, that sort of stuff, we're going to fish with these size hooks. If we're going to be fishing for flathead and brim in that, 30 centimetre, 35 centimetre and above mark. If we're fishing for flathead that are going to be in that 40 centimetre, 50 centimetre and above mark, then I'm going to be using a hook around about this size. Okay, so a 1 or 2 knot. If I'm going to be fishing as a general fishing trip to take out and catch fish with the kids, then I'm going to be fishing something around this size. Now I'm going to put that in the little camera down there. This sort of size here we're looking at is a little ultra point in a beak hook, and this is in a size 1. Okay, this is a size 1 hook. Depending on the style hook, some hooks you might actually go down as far as a 10 if it's a little octopus hook, but something around that size 1 mark, size 2 mark is a good sort of all-round starting point, and somewhere in 4 to 6 is fantastic for getting the kids catching fish. So give that a shot, guys. Hope it works for you. It's if you've got any questions, drop them in the thing below and I will certainly endeavour to answer them for you. If you've got any recommendations for videos that you'd like to see, as I say, drop them in there or put them on the Facebook page. And good luck. I hope you catch more fish. Thanks, guys.